All right, on number 3, we still have fractions, so we're going to decide what our common denominator is. And our common denominator on this one, let's look at our denominators. We have 3 and 3, so our common denominator is 3. So that means that we're going to multiply each term by 3. And remember, the terms that don't have fractions, you just multiply. So 3 times negative 3n is negative 9n. The ones that do have fractions, you're canceling that denominator with this number. Well, it's the same number, so it's going to cancel out completely. And I have negative 1 left. The 3's, again, cancel out completely, and I just have that numerator left, so equals 8. So now that we've gotten rid of our fractions, we have a pretty simple equation to solve. I have basically 2 steps. So the n, again, there's no n's over here, so I don't have to move the variables first. I'm going to move this minus 1 over, and I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have negative 9n equals 9. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 9. So when I divide both sides by the same sign, I'm going to have n equals negative 1. Okay? The next example, we have another fraction, of course, and this time we only have one denominator, so it has to be the common denominator as well. So I'm going to write my common denominator is 4, because that's the only denominator that we have. So I'm going to multiply each term by 4. Remember, the ones that have the fractions just cancel out. So I have the 4, we'll go into 4 one time. I'm only left with b. And then I'm multiplying the other ones because they don't have fractions. So negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Bring down your equal sign. Negative 7 times 4 is negative 28. Don't have any fractions. If you do have fractions at this point, something is horribly wrong. So make sure you don't have fractions. Now I want to move this minus 4 over. So I want to add 4 to both sides. So I have b equals different signs. I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number is negative. So my answer is negative 24. Now on this next one, there's a couple of actual things you can do. You can multiply by the reciprocal if you wanted to. I'm just going to continue to go with what we're doing here, getting a common denominator, multiplying by it, and dealing with the fraction this way. So on our example we have on number 5, our common denominator, we only have 1, so that's it. Common denominator is 3. And so when we multiply both sides by 3, it's going to cancel out on this side, and I'm going to have 2x equals 8 times 3 is 24. And I'm going to get rid of the number with the x by dividing both sides by 2. And x equals 12. Alright. Number 6. It's going to go pretty much the same way. Our common denominator for this one is 5, the only number that has a denominator. So when I multiply both sides by 5, notice that I have m left by itself, and then 10 times 5 is 50. So that means that was a one-step problem. I didn't have much that I needed to do with that one, and I'm completely done. 7 and 8 will be kind of the same, kind of different. We have the same denominator on 7 and different denominators on 8, but it's the same idea. The common denominator for this one, I have just 3, so that's going to be your common denominator. So I'm going to multiply each term by 3. I'm going to cancel out the denominators with the 3 on the first one, and I'm just left with 5x. I'm going to cancel out the 3's on the second, and I'm just left with a negative 7. Don't forget this minus sign in front of the 7. And then multiply the 3 and the x, so equals 3x. Now this one's a little weird because the x over here has no number with it. So even though I like to move my variables first and I like to go to the left, this is one of the only times that I can't. Because the x is by itself, if I moved it over here, there would be nothing on the right side. So I'm going to move my 5x over, since it's plus, I'm going to minus 5x to the other side. And I'm going to have negative 7 equals a negative 2, different signs. I subtract, take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative. And then divide by a negative 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 2. So that means that x equals, I'm going to just change this to a positive. You can't reduce this. So positive 7 over 2. You never want to leave a double negative with a division problem. All right. Now the last one in this little line here, the common denominator is 15. Because I can put 5 into 15 and 3 into 15. So 15 will be my common denominator. 5 won't work because 3 can't be reduced by 5, and 3 won't work because, again, 3 won't be reduced by 5. So 15 is the smallest number they'll both go into. You could have come out with a higher number that they both went into, that's fine, but 15 is the smallest. So I'm going to reduce 5 into 15 goes 3 times. So I have 3 times x is 3x. There's nothing to reduce here because there's no fraction, so I'm just multiplying 15 times negative 2, that gives me a negative 30. For the last one, 3 will go into 15 5 times, so I'm left with 5 times x, which is just 5x. This is just like our last problem. I can't move this x over because it's by itself. So I'm going to move this 3x to the other side, and since it's a plus 3x, I'm minus 3xing to both sides. Cancels out on the right, on the left side, brings it to the right, so I have negative 30 equals different signs, subtract, take the sign of the bigger number. Here, when I divide both sides by 2, x is going to be a negative 15. And I'm going to pick up on the last 4 on the next video.